Heyo, Foundry developer community. Really excited to be back with another developer overview of TRL. It's the TyphonJS Runtime library, bringing the power of Svelte and a whole lot more reactive possibilities to your Foundry development experience. Now, the 0019 update is what we'll be discussing today, and I just added a really cool API for reactive embedded collections. So inside of Foundry documents, usually there's collections. Say an actor will usually have an item embedded collection and an active effect embedded collection. At least that's the case for the D&D 5e system. But most systems, have items, an item embedded collection on an actor. So I want to go over the basic demo of embedded reactive embedded collections that's in the essential-svelte-esm repo. You can find this demo under the source, view, document, embedded collection folders. And we're just going to look at the svelte file here. Now, there's several things that I'll postpone to chatting about until a little bit later, like what this create filter query function does. It's a helper function from svelte-standard to create. It returns a filter function that is also a store, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. We also get to talk about TJS input, which is another component from svelte-standard. So TJSDocument is a wrapper around documents, Foundry documents, that provides reactivity for them. And the new API is accessible by doc.embedded, and usually you'll use create or get. So create creates a new dynamic reducer or reactive embedded collection. You pass in the collection type. So for item or items embedded collection, you pass an item. Active effect would be another option on actors. There are three ways of creating an embedded reactive collection. Here we're doing it the ad hoc way, in the sense that we're passing in an options object that gives a name for the embedded collection. It provides or attaches that filter search filter, and then we provide a sorting function to alphabetically sort inside the collection. Now this, why don't I just open it up here? So here's the demo. It's again pretty bare bones, but I'll drag in a actor over here, and this is all the items alphabetically sorted. And what this filter search function does is that it allows us to filter by a type of item. So if I just put in loot, I only have one loot thing there. Equipment, that's basically the equipment. Oops. But it allows you to dynamically, so we're changing the data that the filter function is using, and we have it associated to this TJS input component. So that filter function is a store, a svelte store, a writable svelte store, and also is a function. In JavaScript, functions, they're not objects, but they're like objects in the sense that you can put additional properties on them. So you can make a function that also is a store. But anyway, so we create this embedded collection and reactive embedded collection, and we're just storing it here. Now, the one interesting thing, if you come down to the actual template, I do want to talk about this, as it is kind of like a thing with Svelte 3. Svelte 3 was created, or at least initially launched in 2019, and the Svelte compiler is still backwards compatible with ES5, and iterators were introduced in ES6. So each directive in Svelte only works with array-like data structures. And the whole dynamic reducer embedded collection thing is using ES6 iterators. So it is a minor inconvenience. So when you actually reference it, for this list here, you do have to basically whatever, I guess it's the spread operator, to create like a temporary array here. And that's fine. Underneath the hood, it's just syntactically, it's something that you have to remember, and that $sign dereferences it as a store. And that's what in the template, subscribes to updates of the underlying dynamic reducer. So I'm actually thinking of doing a fork of Svelte 3 just to add a new directive called each of that will support iterators. There's a lot of threads on the Svelte GitHub that kind of, the maintainers right now, they're not going to add it. So I'm thinking of adding that, as it just supports more modern idioms of JavaScript on the JavaScript side of things. Anyway, so there is, I'm showing the ad hoc way of creating, this embedded, reactive embedded collection. There's a couple different ways of doing it as well. I'm not going to be able to show, this particular demo doesn't show it, but I want to talk about it. And so far that you can actually pass in a custom implementation of dynamic reducer. And that allows you to basically customize, the API surface that gets passed back as the reducer. I mean, in other demos, it'll make a lot more sense, but it's a way that you can kind of create a network or a chain of reducers that provide a more accessible API. Like, you can provide a custom class that has accessor functions that return other reducers. You can also build in derived data. You can subscribe to the reducer internally to your implementation, and then based on changes to the reduced data, you can create derived parameters. Say an example in D&D parlance would be calculating armor class, or the level of so if we put in here now class, there's items, so there's 2 classes, and then each one will have a level of data. So you can create a dynamic reducer just for filtering out the class, and then have it automatically calculate the current level, and make that accessible with a getter in your custom implementation. So it's just there's several different ways of creating reactive embedded collections. Now, one of the really cool things, actually, here, I'm just gonna X this out. Actually, I'll just create a duplicate of this document, drop that in there, just to show you that when you delete a document, TJSDocument gets that update, and it updates all the current embedded collections or reactive embedded collections that you have configured. So if we delete this document here, you'll see that the reactive embedded collection, automatically gets reset. Likewise, if we drag in a different type of document, say scenes don't have item embedded collections, or why don't I go back here and load it up first, so that we see that we have items, and then we go drop in a scene document here. You'll see that it just resets because there's no underlying item embedded collection in this document. So everything, it works really, really nice. There's a lot more information to actually discuss and get across, for especially if those of you that are trying to create systems with TRL. So we'll definitely have that discussion. Check the Discord link below. Other than that, there were some issues. In WebStorm, I spent a lot of time getting TS declarations and stuff like that. This should work. It's really frustrating. I think it's a bug in WebStorm. Hopefully it gets resolved soon. So you can access, it's so weird. It sees the types, and you can go to it. It's got the dynmap reducer type declaration and everything, but it unfortunately is not picking up it for active use in the IDE currently for whatever reason. TRL is made with subpackage exports, which is a fairly new NPM or Node feature, and some of the tooling is catching up. So I'm definitely gonna keep working on getting things to be even a more smooth developer experience. So definitely stop by the Discord for chat. I'll have a thread available for discussing Reactive Embedded Collections, and we'll just get the knowledge about what you can actually do with them a little bit more visible soon enough, you know. So hey, thanks folks for tuning in, and have a great developer experience with version 10 of Foundry. Cheers.